Welcome back, everybody, to Meet the People Changing the World. And I'm really excited to introduce all of you to Lynette. If you don't already know her, I feel like most of you probably do, but I'm really excited that you're going to get to see her and talk to her. And we're going to talk today about really Lynette has leveled up into this other layer of being able to help people with transformational coaching and with soul work. And so I interviewed Lynette a while back, and that was a beautiful conversation. But I'm really excited because I've been actually having some personal work with Lynette, and it's been really, really beneficial and helpful. And I was like, I feel like the world needs to know about this. And I thought we should have a conversation, anyways, about relationships and how this impacts our entire. So, if you want to read all of Lynette's wonderful bio, it's all there in the description. It's all there available for you. But I really just kind of want to get into the conversation. So, Lynette, welcome. Um,
Well, good morning, Lori, and thank you for the gift and the privilege of spending this time with you and your community. It's
yeah,
really, yeah, so much fun ahead. Yeah.
so much fun. And so, normally, I ask all the questions of what got you into this work and all those things. But I feel like we've done that. So I want to kind of just get into like the meat of the
Right.
transformation. And you said to me recently that everything begins with the relationship that we have with ourselves, right? And what led you to that belief? Like what brought you to that conclusion that everything begins with our own personal relationship?
Well, thank you, because I like that question, and it brings me to a story. And the story goes back 22 years ago. It was the summer, it was just almost like exactly to the date. It was the summer of 2004. And my mother had a massive stroke and died suddenly, passed away within 12 hours. She was only 69 years old. And so what happened was I found myself the following week, obviously, sorting through some of her things. We were five siblings, and one of them said, "You're the one who resembles her the most. You go for it." And I went. So anyway, I went through her belongings. I wrote the eulogy, and later I found myself alone by her gravesite, reflecting on the kind of life that she had led and the relationship her and I had shared. Now, although I loved my mother, I never truly felt that I got to know her. There always seemed to be a part of her that was just like a little bit out of reach. And
Mm,
she belonged to a generation of women, who learned to adapt. That was what they did. They cared for everyone else. They supported their husbands and their husbands' careers. They raised the kids. They had enormous responsibility. And often they placed themselves at the bottom of the pile. And so the adaptations help these women survive, belong, and they actually fulfilled the expectations that had been placed on them either by family of origin, culture, and previous generations. So it didn't really leave a lot of space for women to discover who they were beneath all of the roles that they carried. Standing there, I realized something that changed the course of my life. And I still have shivers sometimes when I talk about this. I looked around the cemetery and I thought, which I love you didn't get said? Which book didn't get written? Which business didn't get started? Which solution didn't get found? Because someone had not given themselves permission to do so. And then came that more difficult realization, what some of us call the 2x4 over the head. And I could see the same patterns quietly living in me. I was living a different life. I was a different generation, similar adaptations. And I realized that I had become completely disconnected from myself. And that was like the fork in the road. Was I going to do the work of healing and building a new relationship with myself? Or was I going to keep doing what I was doing, looking to the externals for my answers, continuing with the culture and what had the expectations that were on me. So I made the decision in that moment. However, I didn't take action right away. And so over the years, as I was doing my own growth and my own like work and supporting other women, I kept noticing that many of these smart, accomplished women possessed far more wisdom and knowledge that they ever gave themselves credit for. The challenge, like for myself, and I found in other women, wasn't simply knowing what to do, but it was allowing ourselves to fully trust what we knew and to let the truth really land. Because one of the things that happens is if you let a truth fully land, it often requires something of you. And that's why we put off, right? We negotiate with the truth. We kind of deny the truth. We kind of,
Right, right.
and that's where eventually, like, if you're going to let the truth land and you're going to act on it, then comes the layer of self-trust. Like, can you trust yourself, like, to what you know and to live from what you know? And can you trust yourself to be safe? Because safety is always at that. So, like, it took me a long time to take some of my bigger actions because I didn't have that level of self-trust. And so now that I've learned about that and I've gotten myself more or less on the other side of the bridge, that's what I help women do. I love helping women bridge that gap. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it makes perfect sense. And so I love that statement, let the truth land and act on it. And then like that's and so there's your self-trust and are you letting it land and are you taking action on it? And I guess I'm guessing if those two feel just like uncomfortable, right? Then the question would be like where is the relationship with yourself that's maybe not in harmony or that's not is that kind of where you
Yeah,
run into
like I'm going to take an
conflict?
example of a job, for example, because I've changed. Like I had a career in education, but I did different things in education. So there were moments where I could see something wasn't aligned. But rather than staying with it long enough to figure out what I needed to learn in that situation, I would leave the situation and go, okay, we're starting over and start to clean the slate. But that takes a lot of time, energy, effort, resources frequently until I learned that you can have the same situation. So let's say a job where things aren't going well, where you might find there's relationships that aren't working or the environment's toxic, whatever that job thing is, because most people work and have these careers. But you can stay in it with your head in the sand or and kind of ignore what's going on and just put up with it, feeling trapped, feeling you're the victim, feeling you can't change anything. Or you can say, this is true, this is not working, this isn't right. However, before I take the next step and leave, I can get myself to a new level of safety. I can acknowledge it, but I can stay because it's providing me with money until I find something new. While I do this, I can be looking for something else. I can be figuring this out. So it's still staying for a while, but it's working with, it's protecting yourself in a different way. And so that, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And 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 I think often we're actually taught and can I would say I don't know taught, but we're conditioned or programmed to really not trust ourselves. And we're so conditioned to give our authority to other people or to trust other people or the experts rather than letting ourselves be the expert of what's right for ourselves, which I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about here, but at the same time, like when you're talking about self-trust, like that's what I kind of come to is like, yeah, and that whole relationship with yourself. Like you were saying, like everything begins with the relationship we have with ourselves. So
Yes.
if like
it-
if your relationship with yourself is one of distrust, then everything you're building off of that, I would guess, right? Like,
yeah. And often what we've been, like women, we tend to do because we've got these girlfriends, we kind of like Brené Brown. I forget Brené Brown, the expression she used, but it's like we kind of go to each different person. We kind of look and say, what are they saying? What are they saying? And then we feel we have to build from what we've gained rather than looking at our history, looking at our patterns and getting some professional help for that. Because people can, it's like it's still at times less so. Luckily, we're changing more culturally accepted that you're going to get help for the external things. Like there's a fire, there's a flood, there's been a death. Like those things, people get help with, and it's readily accepted. But the invisible things that are going on within, I mean, that's where the support is needed because it takes a lot of courage to move through these things. And
yeah,
sometimes we can take bigger steps depending the season of our life, and sometimes you have to take baby steps and it's also learning, how do you self-regulate, how do you not abandon yourself in those moments,
right.
because that wheel I mean, it's always there, that little pattern. And I have found, I don't know about yourself, Lori, but like it doesn't matter which level, like we're up level, we come back to the same similar themes,
Mhm.
and we feel we've dealt with it, but it's a different layer of it, a different side of it. And eventually we have to learn, like there's the whole paradox thing, holding paradox.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Um, and so on the topic of relationships with ourselves, so you would say that the relationship with yourself shapes every other relationship in your life,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, how would you explain that to someone who maybe hasn't contemplated that concept before?
So when we say relationship, and someone, I used to think I'll never be a relationship coach because I kept thinking of people or partners or loved
Right.
ones. And I thought, God, I've had enough of my challenges there. But what I've come to realize is that the word relationship, we're actually in relationship with everything. We're in relationship with our work and our purpose. We have a relationship with our health, how we treat ourselves, our well-being. We have a relationship with money and prosperity. We have money set points. We have beliefs. We have patterns around money. And so these relationships that we have, the externals, are influenced by the relationship we have with ourselves. And sometimes we can't name something, and that's why it's really hard. But when I could finally put words to the fact that the relationship I have with myself allows me to expand and to flourish in every other area of my life, or it's going to constrict me. And sometimes I had a really good relationship with my work. I didn't have a great one with my money and prosperity because I had a lot of things happening there. I've developed a better relationship with my health and my well-being. And I never want to go back to being that stressed out and having the headaches and everything. So it's like we have different relationships with different parts of our life. But if we can develop and cultivate a relationship with ourselves, um, and how to say, and I'm starting to ask myself when something comes up or when I get triggered, what kind of relationship do I have with this right now? What am I creating here? Yeah, that's what I mean. So it doesn't matter whether it's like, and it can be with things like truth.
Right.
It can be with things like leadership. I'm
Hmm.
having to cultivate a relationship which I've never had before with aging. And I'm going, I'm hearing a lot of things. And I'm going, oh, that relationship feels really icky. And I have to cultivate one with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You're so right. And yeah, I think this is how, yeah, all these paradoxes of relationships, it's really fascinating. You're right. And everything we have relationships with everything. And it's really actually quite beautiful. And I would guess then that relationship with every different aspect, the way I kind of see it is almost like an energy exchange, or like is it, or is it like, is there a healthy amount of energy exchange between, or what is the relationship, say, between me and money? And is it strong flowing, like to me, or is it like stagnant, or is it or
And is it
constricted?
reciprocal? Is the
Yes.
relationship supportive?
Right.
And how do we treat that relationship?
Yeah, are we treating it with respect, or are we treating it, or are we taking it for granted, or are we or are there lots of energy leaks? Are we sort of like just sending off, allowing the energy to kind of go in all sorts of directions and not really giving it any discipline or any care or any nurturing? And so, which is a really fun way, because we'll do that in like Level Up, where we talk about the relationship we have with our business and what does that look
Yeah.
like, and what's the, and I'm often surprised at how often people are like, oh, I never really considered I have a relationship with my business. It's like, yeah, you're in a relationship.
With it. What's really interesting, I found as I was learning more and more about the relationship I had with things, people, places, all of that, I was realizing like we have a lot less control on the externals than we think we do. That's an illusion. But we have a lot more control on what goes on inside of us, which we often don't stop to acknowledge and to work with.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing of control, where I mean, based on, for example, I take myself based on my upbringing and everything that I had lived, I needed the environment to be a certain way so that my body felt safe. Like if I was perfect enough, or if I did this enough, or managed enough people's feelings and emotions, in the family, then maybe I was safe. But I never controlled that.
Mhm.
That, that was an illusion, but I could control how I was doing things on the inside with myself. And I'm going to bring up something else here, like we often talk in the community, but it's the it's not only the relationship we have with our ego self, it's
Mhm.
also the relationship with soul.
Yeah.
And so when I realized, okay, my belief is that the soul is on a journey, it comes back lifetime after lifetime for different learnings, different experiences to expand. Well, I had to develop a relationship with her because
Mhm.
sometimes in certain areas of my life, she was like the teacher and she was executing like through me. I called her she. And
Mhm.
sometimes based on I did 16, 17 years of practical spirituality. Sometimes I was teaching, her things. And so we had to kind of get on in alignment is the word, so that we're both rowing in the same direction.
Can we talk for a few more minutes about your discovery of relationship with soul? Because when you first started to talk about it, I felt like you were like saying it fast, like everybody knows this, but maybe not everybody knows this. So can we back up for just a minute about
Absolutely.
you're talking about soul and the relationship with soul as the journeyer? Um, like is there anything else you want to say about that that might maybe for people who maybe haven't
Yeah.
contemplated that? Yeah.
Okay. So I was raised in a very strict French Catholic background.
Mhm.
And to me, like there was this fear, like God was like, so it was a real paradox and mixed up messages around this whole
Yeah.
thing. And so I kind of, again, this isn't working. We put it all
Right.
aside.
Oh, this isn't working. I
And
don't
then
want a
I
relationship
started
with this.
looking, that's right. So then I started looking at other things and I thought, like, I'm not religious at all. I'm not, belong to
Mhm.
the politics of religion. I'm not in that.
Mhm.
But I was so disconnected from myself when my mom passed at that stage of my life that there was no internal life happening. But when I started exploring the internal life, I came to understand for me, and I now believe, I mean, it's different. Different spiritual teachers will teach different things. Some teach it as a two-tier system, just you and soul, soul being like sort of almost almighty, and some teach like a three-tier system. So I believe in three things. So that the soul comes back to go through, like to work with an ego vessel,
Mhm.
and so to journey, to expand. But that the pure part of you, I call that, I refer to it as essence, as I've learned. That wasn't my I didn't discover this on my own, right? Like, I mean, I was learning it. So there's the essence and the soul. And so that the soul, so in what I learned, for example, in my relationship with money, soul had very misogynistic beliefs about money. And so when I kind of was learning what and tuning into what she was believing and what I had learned, then it allowed me time to question the beliefs I had picked up this lifetime from family, from culture, from experience, and start looking at how we could work together. Um, and so the relationship. At first, I was being told like just tune in and listen, and I'm going, I'm quiet. I ain't hearing a thing. But for me, the journaling worked really well. And so I can now write out questions, and some days she'll say things, and some days she'll like, I have nothing to say to you today. Like, just go do what you need to do or go be, like, And she's now like, she's told me, like, and just show me some of the gifts, like, that she has accumulated in wisdom in other lifetime. Like, I get some of those visuals, just like people will come to that in different ways, right? There's different modalities to get to that as people heal. Some get visuals, some are more clairaudient, they'll hear things, they know it's a message. Some will see things, they know it's a message. Some, all of a sudden something happens and you go like, yeah. So um I've often will say to her, like, this is what I'm doing today. Like, I need your support. Can you be with me? Like, and so it's like a conversation. As we become more integrated or aligned, I don't have to be as formal with her. And it's not always like, oh, like I've got to make sure every day that I'm sitting down, spending time with her. But it's, if people think about it, like, how people will go back to their inner children, or, their inner child or the younger version of themselves. So you can think of soul as that.
Mm.
like that it's someone you're communicating with
Mhm.
that's not there. Like your 8-year-old self isn't around you, but you can feel her, you remember her. And as you tune in, as you get quiet. So sometimes what helped me to build a relationship with her was listening to other spiritual teachers and their podcasts. So I did a lot of reading about that.
Mhm.
Different books. I go to the bookstore, something's going to pop up, and um, the and we do EFT, right? I mean, your community does
Yeah.
EFT, and sometimes it's EFT for the soul. And now, when I work with people, I ask them sometimes if I can have permission, if I have their ego conscious permission, if I have their soul permission when they tune into their inner wisdom to talk to the soul. And sometimes, like soul, like you kind of missed a memo, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a long-winded answer.
No, it's beautiful. And so, which brings me to the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about, which is the soul work that you're doing with people. I've received this, I've experienced this, and it's really beautiful when your soul communicates with my soul. And I can honestly say, much like anybody out there that does matrix and they've ever been surprised by what their echo says, or I found myself surprised by what my soul said, and I'm like, wasn't expecting that one. And so it's interesting when the two souls are communicating through us verbally, right? I mean, we're talking, but I think let me back up. It's been my belief that our souls are always communicating through the field. Like there's a constant communication, like souls are we're bringing each other into each other's lives because we're ready to, experience, learn, grow, all the things. And so there's always this communication in the field that we're just, the ego conscious self isn't aware of. So it's not, I wonder if it's not even so much that the souls are communicating because they already are, but it's like we're consciously we're consciously getting the info, like we're being brought to the table and we're able to receive and observe this conversation and this communication. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
resonates
and
with you, but
I want to add something here that I think will clarify. What I've learned with people, and then I could, because it was being mirrored to me, and I could see it within myself too. The soul will often get your attention. Sometimes the souls get really mad with their ego vessels because they find they're giving messages, subtle messages. So, for example, my soul would have me trip and fall. And on one of the falls, it was in 2019, I fell face first, flat on cement. And as I'm going down, I'm thinking, this is going to hurt. And, I bled a little bit and I was bruised, couldn't go to work for a week. My soul was upset with me that I was putting 60 to 70-hour weeks and that I wasn't giving my body the health and the attention it needed. Like I learned that with time. So what I found with people, if there's something that's always happening and it doesn't make logical sense to you, there might be something else at play. Like one of the gals in the group I used to be with, she had 7 car accidents in 1 year. Soul was talking to her. Sometimes and yeah, so sometimes it's saying to soul, okay, like we're going to work together differently. And I found like if there's an issue, whether it be money, whether it be health, whether it be whatever, that you've done all the right things and you feel like other people who do this get the result. I'm not getting the result. It's like, okay, what's the message I'm not getting? What is it? Like, and then trying to say, like, can you give it to me more clearly? And then that's when I go to essence or call in other spiritual beings to help my soul see, to understand, to sort of like guide our conversation so we don't go
Mhm.
off track. Yeah.
Yeah,
Does that add more
yeah,
clarity to it?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. And so what would it look like when a woman begins to really live from this place where she has this beautiful relationship with herself? Like what would it look like if she's like, rather than dealing with like the old patterns, the old expectation, not listening to soul or collecting that guidance? Like what would it look like when a woman actually like creates a relationship with her soul, creates a relationship where she can trust herself? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, so first of all, it's not like everything changes suddenly overnight, right? And more often, it's a lot quieter than
Mhm.
what people expect. And you begin to notice something different about yourself. So she's starting to recognize when she's overriding her truth, when she's saying yes and she wants to say no, when she's not putting the boundary and she knows she could and should be putting the boundary. She's starting to notice when she's looking outside of herself for permission or certainty. So first of all, there's the awareness piece, right? So she's not necessarily taking action right there. She's just starting to notice. And then she often notices and that she's she's admitting to herself that she's been sensing things for a while, certain things in a certain area, and that it was scary to say, I know this.
Yeah.
Like and afraid. And sometimes because they can't put words to it, name it, and that happens with young, old, everyone. Like if we can't name something, it's really hard to get clarity around it. And so sometimes she starts being able to name it. And then she says, "Oh, well, like okay, so I know this is true now, and I'm gonna need to do something." It's like, how do I find the courage, or how do I find the strategy do I need? How do I find? And it's starting. And so she'll try it in one area. And we tend to try things like, for example, boundaries. If the risk of, like, let's say we put boundaries with people, so if the relationship that you're really worried about is at home, well, you might try boundaries at work, or you might try them on your girlfriends, you might try, that you tend to try things where it feels a little safer and you get some practice. and
Yeah.
and sometimes I say to people, like, sometimes it involves healing old parts or protective patterns that are still shaping the present, and other times the awareness is there, and what it is, it's really just, it's more like the transformational steps. It's like, what feels most right that I can do right now, like, do a bit of a brainstorm and take the one step, and it's smaller steps. I used to hate taking small steps. I thought, like, it's never going to get me there fast enough. But it is the small steps that make it sustainable. It's the small steps that build that actual self-confidence. So eventually, I mean, it looks like she trusts herself more. Her relationship becomes healthier. There's more inner peace, more joy. Like, I had something happen about a month ago, and a few years back, that would have had me running. But instead, I recognized that I needed this self regulation. I self regulated for 48 hours before even bringing it up. Then, after the discussion, I thought, okay, it can stay here. What does my nervous system need to feel safety? And then it's like rewiring your nervous system.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a whole other conversation. So it's like, but you start feeling like, you know what? I'm not all wrong. And I think my biggest, I would say, internal accomplishment in the last while, the last has been, I am enough. I knew it here, and
Mhm.
I believed it, and I could teach things about being enough. But I can finally say I've embodied I am enough. And
Yeah.
that's huge. And so from women's issues tend to fall as like, I'm not enough, or I'm all alone, or I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not valued, and everything else kind of falls underneath that, like, I'm not lovable, I don't belong, I'm not worthy of success, whatever. So there's some key things there that research has shown that we can look at.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say on the topic of embodiment, I think I think in the spiritual new thought communities, we led so heavily, we went so forward into like energy and mindset and all the energy components. And I think we maybe didn't put a lot of emphasis on the body and the physical, like the embodiment part, and this is the actual vessel that's holding on to all this energy. So it's actually just as important. And on the biology component, as women, I mean, I understand in the last 100 years, we've come a long way, but our biology hasn't caught up to that yet. Our biology doesn't know. And so our biology is very much still hardwired that if we don't please the people around us, we'll die. Like we do have that in us. So when you're talking about setting boundaries, um, for me personally, I am really good now at the bigger boundaries, the obvious boundaries. Those ones I'm fine
Yeah.
with. I have no problem with those ones. And when somebody asked me about boundaries, I'm like, I'm great with boundaries. And she said, oh, okay. So you never find yourself saying it's not that big a deal. And I had to stop, and I was like, oh no, I still do that quite a bit. And she's like, those are the boundaries that you now have to, and those are the things that it's not that big a deal because this person wants this, or this would make other people happy, or this is easier for getting blurry. Sorry. I'll fix that real quick. And
Mm.
and so those are that's that. And so those are the boundaries that are the hardwired into our feminine nature that
Yeah.
like if I'm not doing these things, then I won't be cared for. I won't be loved. I won't, and if I don't have that, then I'll die. And I know it sounds ridiculous because, we live in the world that we live in, but not that long ago, it
Yeah.
was very, very true. And
Well,
so I love that you're working on this with people.
one of the things I noticed for myself, um, again, based on everything that how I was raised and the culture and the expectations was it was always to the external. It was everything physical, nothing like the spiritual. Then I got into for those years where I did a lot of intense practical spirituality stuff. It's almost like the pendulum is going
Yeah,
like this before it
it does.
eventually. So it was like I was here, but not looking so much at that. And now it's bringing them together. I mean, we do live in a physical reality world. So it's like you have to have one foot in the physical, one foot in the spiritual, and it's getting that balance. And so and balance is a huge part of everything, right?
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
goes with, yeah, balance. And so and what you said something key a few minutes ago, and I forget the exact sentence, but it was about the boundaries and the smaller boundaries, and that's what happens with each level of each of our up leveling and higher levels of consciousness. It's the smaller stuff that comes up, right?
Yeah. And what I've actually kind of landed on, and I don't know if I'll stay here forever, but where I'm at right now is okay. So if I find myself thinking it's not that big a deal, the bridge for that, rather than kind of being a hard no and setting a solid boundary, would be letting the person know this feels like a compromise for me. Like this feels like I don't actually want to do it. Like I understand it's important to you, so I will do this, but letting them know it's a compromise, like letting them know, like, okay, I'm making a compromise right here, or being really mindful and aware of it rather than I think we tend to just do to your point of what you were saying in the beginning about how we've been conditioned as women. And so like being aware of it, making a conscious, like being conscious really about where we're at each each moment. It's not just the gigantic things that are super obvious. It's like
Oh,
these really nuanced interactions. And yeah, because you were also saying like once you see it, like you were talking about when people become your ladies, when they're doing this work, right? They become aware. They can they're observing themselves, they're aware of what's going on, they're starting to see it. And really, like once you see something, you can't unsee it. You can pretend you didn't see it, but you can't
yeah.
unsee it. It's still there. The seed has been planted. So this is happening. Um, and and I wanted to say on that topic, real quick, because what I've noticed is a lot of times when people start to become aware because of our society and because of the way that it's been for who knows how long, when we do name it, our knee-jerk reaction is to blame, become a victim, and be like, it's their fault, or it's this, or this bad thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like that maybe is where soul comes in of, yeah, no. This is actually a bigger growth opportunity. This isn't like an opportunity for us to point the finger and blame and feel like a victim and weak or whatever. This is an opportunity um, for transformation. This is an opportunity for expansion. And so, and for personal responsibility. right? Like,
Yeah, and I
and
think if I can segue on what you've said there, that add to that is that you can see what's wrong and you can choose or what's wrong, what's not working. I've been asking myself, the question the last couple, like when something happens, why is this happening for me? What could be the possible gift? And so it's when we ask what's happening for me, it's like you can see what's wrong, but you can just stay with it. It doesn't mean you'll stay with it forever. It means that in the moment, you don't have to be reacting, big, loud, do anything massive. You can
Mhm.
actually wait till the timing is right for you to take the next step.
well, and that's so funny because as women, again, because of the old systems that we're running, like everything feels like life or death. And it's like,
Everything's like it's a rush.
like I have to have an answer now because if I don't, I'll die. And I know that sounds ridiculous. And yet I'm willing to bet we've all had that experience where like we get triggered, we get activated, and it feels so it just feels so much bigger than life. And like it and I can't go on until this is resolved. And because as women, we're very much reliant on our relationships. Like our relationships are very, very important to us. And, which kind of to bring us in full circle about this is, and I love that you're bringing the awareness to the relationships that people are most likely completely oblivious to. And, like they're not even aware of these relationships. And yet we're still programmed to have these reactions to these relationships and to feel this extreme, you know, yeah, like this need to please
The
and
loud. What I found is if in my head, the wording, the upsettedness, the message I'm getting is really like loudish or big words, that's my ego.
yeah.
My essence talks to me in a different way. And it just says, calm down. It'll say whatever. And then it doesn't give me the answers right away. And I like answers right away.
Don't we all?
Most people do. But like, it's like yeah. And sometimes it's like, okay, so where are you in this? Like,
Mhm.
like, are you sort of out doing something else, Well, and often my answers, what I've learned to come to trust, it's in that 30 seconds to 2 minutes, 3 minutes when I awake and I get an awareness of that. Okay. And sometimes the action I'm told to take goes, I can't really do that. What if, what if? And then I'm going, oh, yeah, yeah, that's the part where you need the courage, and to do it. But it's like really tuning in. If it's quiet, like really listen, because that essence, that purest part of you, your inner wisdom, isn't screaming at you.
No, it's that like still true, that knowing that voice said, yeah, that. And um so you're helping women not only improve the relationship with themselves and their self-trust, and you're also helping them identify all their different relationships in their world and how their relationship with themselves impacts their relationship with all these different facets, whether it's humans or work or systems. It doesn't really matter, right? Like all the relationships. So by working on ourselves, which I feel like a lot of people who are watching this are probably like, well, yeah, of course. And it's like, yes, and are you doing it? Because I know there's times when I do it and then there's times when I don't. And so it's like sometimes we need a little reminder, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's just like getting on a bicycle, we get off and we have to get back on, get up. What I found was really interesting, and I witnessed it in myself this past month. In June, I spent 5 days in Montreal with my son who's there. I mean, Eastern Canada, for those, and his wife and their little guy. And then when I came back, because my kids were moving from, Manitoba to Alberta, they spent several days with us before they left. And I thought, you know what? The old me would have been wanting to give it, like, make a suggestion, worry about this, worry about that. And it was like, no. It's at one point I looked at my eldest and I said to him, I said, I could make a few suggestions, but you didn't ask me for one, so I'm not gonna. And he looked at me, he goes, "You've gotten so wise." It's like if they don't want to hear it, they're not asking. If they want something, they're gonna ask. So it's like, if you want to know something, ask me. If not, you know, and it's like, why do we think and it goes back, yeah, like why do we think, that they need this? Is that we can save ourselves so much energy as
Hmm.
women, right? And it's letting the worry just subside and go, they'll figure it out or they'll come back or yeah,
Yeah.
all of that good stuff.
And so how can I know you've been writing a lot of articles on LinkedIn, but what are the best ways for people to kind of like start following you, receive some of your maybe your
Okay,
website, but what
so
are the best ways?
So I have my website transformation starts within needs a whole new rewrite this summer. But having said that, there's a page that says gift and weekly insight. So people can put in their name and email and they'll get a PDF, which is a small guide to see like how much are you living in your head and how much are you actually into your heart. And then the weekly insight. I basically write I cover something every week. That one's a little bit more personal, that personalized list than the LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I have a newsletter called Live From Within, where who you are and how you live align. I have been my own little challenges. I've been putting off the YouTube channel, but that will be coming down the line. But for now, those are the two ways, and I'll be posting something in the community before long. I am going to just like for women who want maybe to start with something short, like a 6 week, going from the inner chaos like to the calm, and just kind of looking at different aspects of the relationship to self. So that's up and coming, and they can always just send me an email if they want to chat. I also have a 90-minute, it's a standalone thing that I've done. It's a 90-minute sort of facilitation where I ask questions and you get to explore like the relationship you currently have with yourself so that you can see, what next steps you might want to take, whether that's with me or with somebody else. So that's also a possibility.
That's
But you
beautiful.
can just email me and say, yeah, Lynette, can we have a chat? And I'll say, anyone who's listening right now to this, they can ask for that 90-minute session. It'll be complimentary. Beautiful, for the time that you've given me here and that we've had fun conversing. Yeah, it'll be a complimentary 90-minute session.
That's really generous of you. Thank you so much for offering that to our listeners. I really appreciate that. Um, or watchers or however you guys are consuming this information. And I love that you give people the opportunity to give that time to be really thorough to get a clear baseline of like where we're at. And because again, right, you can't
Yeah,
unsee it once you see it.
and I think the thing, if I would say, is it doesn't matter where you start because reality is every area of your life basically it touches every other area. So you can sit with yourself and go, okay, what feels most right in this season? Is it in my relationship with my loved ones, or is it in work area or is it in the prosperity area? Like, where do I want to kind of look and what's happening there? And so it might be the area that is most prominent or most bothersome and for some people that'll feel totally unsafe and they'll go, I know I have 2 or 3 areas I want to look at. And this is the one that feels the safest because it'll
Mm,
be the smallest ask of me. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever works for you.
yeah, beautiful. So I will put all of your links in the descriptions, but if anybody is listening and they don't have access to the description or it gets shared in some other platform, so your website is Transformation Within or
Starts within.
Starts Within. Transformation Starts Within. And so you guys can find Lynette there. But like I said, I'll put all the links down below for everyone. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Lynette, for your time for this
Well,
conversation.
thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege. And I love your community. For anybody listening, I mean, Lori brings together some wonderful people, and your weekly tapping sessions and your monthly events, have helped me to grow a lot. So, yeah, it's been
Thank
wonderful to be a part of this community.
Thank you. And, I know we've been talking about women, but if any of you men out there listening, you're welcome to still, we can
I
still
was
learn
going
from
to
that.
say, I can certainly work with men. I tend to talk about women mostly with women because that's the experience I have this lifetime. But
Yeah.
the issues when it comes to things like, truth, discernment, self-trust, self-confidence. It just shows up a little differently for them, but they've had a lot of expectations put on them too that they need to be released of as well.
100%. Yeah, they have a soul that wants to communicate with them as well, so they can. Beautiful. Yes. So, all right. Well, thank you, Lynette, and thank you guys for listening or watching. And until next time.